Hello, this is Adam Craig, and welcome to my session on Fedora 15. This is actually still in the beta stages right now. It's not ready for production, so what you see here is not something you're going to want to push out to enterprise network or any sort of a production level system. I was very eager to give this a test on my ThinkPad X201 tablet system, which is running a Core i7 processor and whatnot. I heard that some of the features of Fedora 15 were ready to handle some of the newer hardware, and so I really wanted to start enjoying that as soon as I could. And I've been really pleased with the results this morning, as I've been getting some things done on my upgraded system. So I ran the net install CD yesterday evening, which you can actually get. I'll show you how to get there if you do a Google search for Fedora 15 Beta Test Candidate 1 or TC.1. You can click on this install link and then go down, choose the download the required ISO images, and choose your processor architecture. I've got a 64-bit processor, and of course we want ISO images. And this net install CD is what I ran. Installed great. Upgraded my Fedora 14 install to Fedora 15 with no problem whatsoever. So this morning I booted my system up, and this is basically what I saw. It's a wonderful interface. It's quite attractive. One of the first things that you'll notice about Fedora 15 is that it does use the new GNOME 3 desktop, and so most of what I talk about now is going to be not so much related to Fedora 15 as it is related to GNOME 3, which is also going to be the desktop environment that's going to be available on OpenSUSE 11.4 and presumably other Linux distributions from this date forward. So GNOME's major competitor is KDE, and I'm sure many of you have probably tried to run KDE before. If you haven't, KDE is just another way of pointing and clicking in a Linux operating system, much like GNOME is. And the reason I have always used GNOME in the past is because I've always seen it as a simple way to work with my computer. And simplicity is important to me because simplicity to me means efficiency. If things are simple, then they're where they belong, and that means you can find them when you need them. GNOME always appeared to me to be the simplest way to point and click in Linux, and so that's been what I've used. It looks like the GNOME developers have kept that in mind when they have developed this new version of GNOME, GNOME version 3. Things are simpler than ever. Things are efficient. Things are easy to find, and I'm going to demonstrate some of that to you now. Now, if you notice that things are different than what you're used to, my suggestion to you is before you complain too much about this, there's a lot of dialogue going on online about GNOME 3, and there's a lot of positive stuff out there, but there's also a lot of negative stuff. And my challenge to anyone who has negative things to say about GNOME 3 is first, give it a try for about a week before you complain. Just give it a shot. See if where things are located in the long run make you more efficient, or if they're still continuing to bog you down, if they're still continuing to frustrate you after a week or two of using it, then you've probably got a good point that something needs to be changed. Then when you go on and you make your suggestions about ways that GNOME 3 can be improved, make sure that you do it constructively. People spend a lot of time coding this. I haven't been involved at all in the development of GNOME 3, but people pour a lot of time and energy into this. A lot of people volunteer to do this. Programming's not an easy thing. Programming's fun, but it's also labor intensive. It requires a lot of brain cells, and yeah, I mean, after a hard day of programming and scratching your brain and trying to, earnestly trying to make things easier for folks, the last thing that you want to do is check your mailing list and see somebody rattling on in a non-constructive way about the work that you've been doing. It's got to be unbearably frustrating. So, if you've got a criticism, you probably need to voice it, but make sure that you voice it constructively. Again, these people work hard, and they really are trying to make things easier for folks, trying to make things as efficient as they can be, which is, after all, what computing's all about. So, go easy on them. They work hard. Um, Help them do their job. Give them ideas that they can use to make things easier for you and for other people. But again, just do that constructively, please. So here we are in GNOME 3 and Fedora 15 after a upgrade from Fedora 14 using the net install CD. Again, you've noticed that the three main menus that you are used to in GNOME 2, applications, places, and system, are now no longer there. It's been replaced by this word activities, and if I click on activities, I'm taken into what's called the GNOME shell, and that's what you're looking at now. Now, in the GNOME shell, there's a lot of things we can look at. The first thing that I want to just explain to you is you see this terminal that's open here. Now, I just went on ahead and clicked on it to bring it into focus. The terminal window that's running now is responsible for encoding the video screencast that you're watching and listening to now. So I can't get rid of that to make things easier on your eyes here. So this is going to be here whether we want it to be or not, unfortunately. So here we are in the GNOME shell. Now, one of the first things that you notice is there's a bar over here on the left. This is called the dash in GNOME 3, and to this dashboard, or this dash bar as it were, you can assign your favorite applications, things that you're going to use most often. I've got Google Chrome on here. Chrome doesn't come installed by default on Fedora 15 because of some Google licensing issues, but you can download and install it freely through the folks over at Google and their repositories and stuff once you get your main install of Fedora running. So I've got that pinned on here. Of course, I've got my email client. I've got a document program. I've got a spreadsheet program. I have my NetBeans development environment for my Java projects. So I've got things that I'm going to use really often over here on this favorites bar. So let's go ahead and open a couple of applications in addition to the terminal. Let's open a document. Fedora 15 comes with the LibreOffice suite as opposed to the OpenOffice suite because of some changes that happened over at Oracle that caused this fork, LibreOffice, to be developed, and most of the major distributions are distributing that now. So there's the writer. Let's open LibreOffice Calc as well, and so there's that, and why not a file manager, and let's also open NetBeans. So you see, to open each one of those applications, I simply went up to the Activities button. There are several different ways that you can get into activities, and the way I was using just then was I was just simply shoving my mouse cursor into the upper left-hand corner of the screen, and that just pulls up this activities dash. Another way you can do it is you can just click on the word activities, and it opens the exact same view. The last way, the third way, and this is probably the way that I'll tend to use it most often, and if you're a keyboard shortcut person, you'll probably use this most yourself, is just pressing the Windows key or the special key on your keyboard. When you mash that down, it just opens activities straight away, and you'll see where that'll come in really handy in just a couple of minutes. So to open these applications, I've gone into activities and I've used these favorite links. But what if what I want to open is not in my favorites? Let's say I want to open the GNOME Edit or gedit text editor. I can't get to that here because I haven't placed it on my favorites bar, but I can get to it by going into activities and then clicking on applications. And when I click on applications, I can find what I want by either scrolling through this list until I find it, which I prefer not to do. This is a little clunky, but you can see there's gedit, and I can click on it, and there's my GNOME Edit program. I find this long list of applications a little overwhelming. So you can narrow that down. You can, click on specific things. Like I can click on the accessories heading, and that gets me just my accessory applications. And then I can click on my gedit program. Now you notice this category view over here is organized much the same way that the applications view or the applications menu was organized back when you had applications, places, and system. So that's a consistent thing. You can click on applications and still find it under its same heading if that's how you're used to getting to it. So I'm going to open up gedit one more time. I went into applications and then accessories. I click on gedit and there's the program. A third way that you can open programs, if you know what the program's called, let's really save some steps. Let's go up here to activities, and better yet, instead of clicking on it, let's hit the Windows key. And as soon as the activities view comes up, if I just start typing what I want to open, I just do gedit. Alright, now if you noticed what happened, in this search box up here, when I started typing, it automatically keyed that into this box. Now I could have gone into activities and I could have clicked in the search box. That's 2 clicks, and then I could have typed gedit, and then I could move my mouse and I could do a third click and open it. But what if I could do this all from the keyboard without having to use the mouse at all, and do it all with just 2 procedures? Alright, let's do this. Let's hold down the Windows key just for a second. We'll tap the Windows key, let's type gedit, and then let's press enter. Watch that. How cool is that? It just opens it right up. If I know the name of the application, I can get to it very easily in GNOME 3. Another cool thing is if you don't have your web browser open, and right now you can see in this expose view, which is kind of similar to what you're used to seeing in Mac OS, you notice I don't have a web browser open. But what if I want to find something out? What if I want to, let's say I want to see what the latest news is in the Ron Paul campaign. If I go into activities, I can just click on that and I can type in Ron Paul. I don't have any applications or anything showing up that are associated with Ron Paul, but if I click on the Google link down here, then Mozilla Firefox opens. This is Firefox version 4, which comes installed on Fedora 15. It automatically opens Google and executes a Google search for Ron Paul, and there's what I was looking for. So I can then click on links and so forth and find what I need that way. All through GNOME Shell. Now another thing I can do is I can also type in another name, let's say Thomas Jefferson. I type that into my search box and I click on Wikipedia instead, and I bet you it takes me straight to Thomas Jefferson's Wikipedia page. So a very fast, simple way to find information very quickly. Saving key presses, saving mouse moves, saving mouse clicks. I tell you, if you give this a try for a week or two, you will love it. I've been watching the development of GNOME Shell and GNOME 3 for a couple of months now. I think I started watching it back in October of 2010, and I've watched it evolve, and these developers have done a great job. And I hope that you'll give it a shot and see what you think as well. Now, if I haven't sold you on GNOME 3 so far, let me show you one other thing. First thing I'm going to do is I do want to pin something to this favorites bar before I get distracted with something else. So let's go ahead and pin the GNOME edit program to the favorites bar. I search for it or I locate it in applications somehow. If I right click on it once I find it, I just click on add to favorites. It moves it over to my favorites, and then I can move that in my favorites bar wherever I want it. So if I want it up above my document program, I just drag it up there and drop it down, and there it is. So so that's that's about as easy as it gets. Now, if you remember back in GNOME 2, if you installed something called Compiz, or if your distribution of Linux came installed with Compiz installed, you probably remember that you had the option of turning on this cube, And on the cube, you could define a certain number of desktops. It was always a restricted number. It was whatever you specified in settings. I usually had 4, but I knew people who had 6 or 8. And on those desktops, you could launch applications and switch back and forth from desktop to desktop and interact with your programs that way. In GNOME 3, you don't run Compiz, but you can have as many workspaces as you want, and it can be a flexible number of workspaces. So in other words, why should I have 8 workspaces running if today I'm only going to use 3? Okay. Why should I restrict myself to 3 workspaces if tomorrow I'm going to need 5? And if I don't know how many workspaces I need from day to day or hour, to hour or even minute to minute, then why don't we just make the workspaces flexible? And that's what GNOME 3 does. So right now I've just been working off of one workspace. I can drag applications over to this workspaces bar and assign my workspaces and set them all up right in this one view, and it's flexible. So let me put my terminal on this second workspace. As soon as I drop something onto it, I automatically get an empty, clean, blank slate, a blank workspace that I can drag other applications to. I'm going to put my Excel writer on that, and I'm going to put my NetBeans IDE on the fourth one, and I'll put my file manager on the fifth one. So whereas before I was only using 4 workspaces, I was restricted to that. In Compiz I could have added a 5th one, but it would have taken me who knows how many mouse clicks and how many Google queries to find out how to remind myself how to do that. Here I've just dragged and dropped and I've created my 5 workspaces. If I decide, well, I really just kind of want my file manager to be up here with my terminal, I just click on my file manager, I drag it up to the workspace where my terminal is, I release it, and what do you know? GNOME Shell removes the extra workspace. So everything stays within the bounds that I'm setting as I'm working, and it does it automatically for me. So this is, this is great stuff. So here we are. I can switch between my workspaces, and I can choose the application I want to run. Very smooth, very seamless, very polished for something that's in beta. This is pretty incredible stuff. I haven't had it to crash yet. All right, so we've gone through workspaces now. The very last thing that I think it would probably be valuable to discuss is the main menu for dealing with putting your computer to sleep or logging out. This is one of the main things that's attracted a lot of attention in some of the discussions online. Is people are asking, how do I shut my computer down? Because I click on my name, and that's not really that new of a thing. We're kind of doing that in the later versions of GNOME 2. But when I click on my name, the only option I have is, well, I can lock my screen, I can switch the user, I can log out of my session, or I can suspend my system. But where's shutdown? Well, if I click on suspend, my computer's going to go to sleep. It's not going to prompt me whether I want to shut down or not. People are getting infuriated about this because they think they can't shut their computer down or restart it anymore. But in fact, you can. The reality of it is most folks just, most folks are just operating in standby and resume. Linux hardly ever has to be rebooted anymore. So they just thought they would keep it clean. If I press Alt on my keyboard, watch what happens. Did you notice that? I just pressed Alt and suspend turned into power off. Then I could click on power off and I could choose to shut down my computer or to restart it. It's really not all that hard, and it's something I'm not going to use that often anyway, so let's just get it out of the way. Keep it from being a distraction and keep me from doing something that I really am probably not going to want to do that often anyway. So that's how we'd shut our computer down. System settings is, I think, what I want to show you to close out this portion of the video before I show you 2 real quick tweaks. System settings is where you go to adjust basically all of your system settings. This probably looks a little bit familiar to something that you may have seen on the Mac OS. You open system settings and you can go in here and you can tweak things. You can change your display properties. You go back to all settings. You can change your printer settings. You can change your desktop background. A lot of backgrounds in here to choose from. You click it, it changes it instantaneously. So you can play around with some stuff in system settings and get your desktop optimized the way that you want it to be. So closing out of system settings, there are two things that I have done to my GNOME 3 instance that are not defaults. And you may have noticed one already if you've been looking at some of the other videos and screenshots that are available online. One of the things that you may have noticed if you've been doing that is that in GNOME 3 the default behavior is only to give you the X button in the upper right corner. They don't give you minimize or maximize buttons. But I like to minimize, and let me show you why. When I'm running my computer, I will tend to like to have, and I'll just set this up. If I'm researching for a paper, say, I'll have an instance of Firefox open on one of my workspaces, and that's where I might be doing research, looking for journal articles and things online on that. On another workspace, I might have another instance of Firefox with my email running. I'm not going to open my email right now just for privacy concerns. But and then on another workspace, I might have my Word document, which is where I'm doing my actual writing at. And on, well, I think that's probably about all I would use. But it could be possible that while I'm working on my Word document, I might need another document open in order to have my outline up as I'm typing. A nice thing about GNOME 3 is you can just snap windows to where you want them on your screen. If I wanted in the old way to have two documents open side by side, I'd have to kind of try to line them up and then play this guessing game, and once I finally got that up, then I would have to drag and I'd have to adjust my zoom. Not in GNOME 3. Why not just dump it over here to the side, turn loose of it, there it is. Let's throw this one over here, release it. Alright, cool. Now I just adjust that a little bit so I can view my whole document on both screens, and I'm ready to look at my outline and I'm ready to type my paper. Awesome stuff. Alright, now back to workspaces. So I might need to have my two Word documents open, and then I might also want to have a PDF open. And let's just pretend that this Excel, or rather a calc document, is my PDF. So here's my PDF. I'm sitting over here and I'm typing my paper, rolling right along on this thing. And I realize, okay, I'm done with this part of the PDF. I need to get back to my outline and see what I'm doing next. I would be looking for that minimize button. And if I had to click on X and my minimize button wasn't there, I might close something that I didn't really want to close. So I give myself the minimize button so I can just get that out of the way, get back to what I want to see. And if I want to pull my other window back open on that workspace, I just go over to my activities pane, use my expose view, click on it, and it pulls it right back in. So I really need that minimize button to prevent me from doing something I really don't want to do and to keep me efficient at the same time. So the way that I turn that on is I use something called the configuration editor. So we'll open that up, we go into activities, start typing configuration editor, it comes up as the first option, I hit enter. And what we want to turn on is under desktop, and then GNOME, and then shell, and then Windows. Now when you first come in here and you're looking at this, what you're going to see is : close beside button layout. that says that, well, colon, and then the close button is the only button that you've got. But if I want minimize to show up as well, I change that to colon, minimize, comma, close. I hit enter, and there's the setting. Now, whatever I change in here is not going to take effect instantaneously. I have to log out of my session and then log back in order for any tweaks that I make inside the configuration editor to take effect. So I add my minimize and my comma in between my colon and the word close, and that gives me my minimize button, and that keeps me from screwing up and saying things that I shouldn't say. All right, now the last thing that I like to use is if I'm sitting in class and I'm taking notes, or I'm writing a paper or an article or something of that sort. To save time, one of the nice things that I really liked about GNOME 2 was that it defaulted to showing me the month and the day of the month in my clock view. Now, the default behavior of Fedora 15 and GNOME 3 is just to show you the day of the week and the time. I'm going to change that. And the way that I change that is by going into a terminal view and typing in this line. I type in gsettings space set space org.gnome.shell.clock space show date with a dash, show dash date space, and then Boolean true. And when I hit enter, what do you know? I get the month and I get the day of the month. If I decide I didn't want that, I just go back to my command and I change the Boolean value to false, and it gets rid of it. This happens instantaneously, which is nice. I'm going to turn that back on because that's how I'm going to want to leave it for my work here down the road. So I think that about covers everything that I wanted to show you in this video. I do apologize for the length, but I did want to cover some things. I wanted to eliminate some misconceptions about things, and I ultimately just wanted to encourage you to give this a try. You know, give it a shot for a week or two, see what you think, and then if you do have complaints, please voice them. You know, the great thing about free and open software is that it's all about satisfying the needs of the customer. It's about making computers do what we as users need them to do to make us as efficient and productive as possible in a friendly way. So, you know, don't get on these mailing lists and get ugly. Like I say, these people work hard. They put a lot of thought. They put a lot of time and effort into things, and they're offering this great stuff to you for free. So, you know, treat them nicely. Help them to make computers work for their purpose. You know, computing is about making life easier. It's about making us productive. It's about keeping things simple. It's about keeping things organized. And whatever we can do together to do that easily, to do it fun, is the way to do it. So again, you know, check this out, see what you think, and voice your criticisms kindly, and definitely have a great day. So thanks for watching this video.